Welcome back to the Combat Sports in Africa podcast. Today, we're excited to feature Ebe Ghansah, a lifelong martial arts and combat sports athlete and coach with an interesting background and sports journey. Ebe is a Gracie Barra coach for the Black Belt Braulio Estima team, trained at the prestigious Gracie Barra Main Academy in Rio de Janeiro. He's competed in various striking and grappling-based combat sports, including amateur mixed martial arts, Sambo, and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He holds multiple qualifications in Muay Thai, freestyle wrestling, and Olympic-recognized grappling. Ebe was part of the British team that competed in Taekwondo events at the 1988 Seoul Olympics. Additionally, he has represented his country in Taekwondo at both the World Championships and European Championships. In this episode, we'll dive into Ebe's recent training seminar with Ghanaian MMA fighters and other combat sports athletes who competed at the African Games. We'll discuss his overall impressions of their performance and explore the strengths and areas for improvement he identified. Ebe will share his insights on the specific skills and techniques Ghanaian fighters should focus on to elevate their game and address the current challenges hindering the development of MMA and grappling sports in Ghana. Additionally, we'll look at the potential for MMA and grappling disciplines to flourish in a country with a strong boxing heritage. Finally, Ebe will talk about his plans for future seminars and training sessions in Ghana. Before we jump into this insightful conversation, make sure to subscribe and follow the Combat Sports in Africa podcast wherever you get your podcasts. Connect with us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube for all the latest updates. Now, let's jump into our discussion.
So, Ebe, what were your overall impressions of the training seminar you conducted with the Ghanaian MMA fighters who recently competed at the African Games?
Brilliant. It was absolutely a great opportunity, because the fact that they were so receptive. It was not only the MMA fighters, there was the African Games karate guys, judo guys, sambo guys, everybody, and people who didn't compete. First impressions, they wanted to learn. That was the first impression. They really wanted to learn. And my goal was like African oral tradition. I've been lucky, so it's just passing information on to them. And then it's up to them whether they think that information is useful or not.
Now, you did send me some clips from the training seminar, and I appreciate that. And I'll be sharing those on the Combat Sports in Africa social media pages and so on. But before we dive into this some more, I was looking at your sports resume, and it's really it's an impressive one. You've essentially competed. You're a lifelong martial artist. You're an Olympian for the sport of Taekwondo, but you've also participated and competed in just about every sport under the sun. Tell us your sports history, your combat sports history.
Bit embarrassed about talking about myself, but I'll keep it brief. From 1972 to the present day. So, walked into my house as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old kid. Saw Bruce Lee on the TV. He had just died, 1973. I thought, wow, I could relate to that. So I instantly got involved. Wing Chun. At that time, being a 13, 14-year-old, it's whatever is close by. Wing Chun, loved it. Then I did Taekwondo, Hapkido. Loved the Korean martial arts because there's a gym in front of my house. Fast forward from Taekwondo, Hapkido up to about 1982, 74 to 82. Then I was competing in Taekwondo. I was fortunate enough to get in the Great Britain team. At that time, I was, I would say, 7 or 8 years unbeaten in Taekwondo. Great times, great team.
Wow.
So I competed in 4 World Championships, 3 Europeans, and the Olympics in 88. My passion, and I went to Korea, trained with the Korean Army. Beautiful. Moving forward, it got a bit political. So 88, I thought, you know what? Start from scratch. Got involved. I did judo at school and boxing. So I did judo, and then got a second degree in judo, competed in boxing as well. 93, the jiu-jitsu explosion. Wow, yeah, totally amazed. Again, started from scratch. Luckily, Roger Gracie's father, Mauricio Gomez, who's now still a good friend of mine. I go back with Roger a long time. Started a club, trained there. So really from 93 onwards, I started a gym in my house, and I got Brazilians, a guy called Ronaldo, Sal, who became the senior instructor, Gracie Baja, Nelson Solari, Eduardo, all these names. They used to come to my house on a Saturday morning to teach, and I had 8 or 9 guys. Moving forward, literally 2 more lines. Competed in, I think, about 5 European championships, BJJ, a couple of world ones, got a few golds, silvers, bronze at European world level. My highlight was fighting as a brown belt against 2 of the greatest in jiu-jitsu. Rafael Mendez, compete against him. It's on YouTube. Lovely guy, probably number 2 all round in the world, 7 or 8 times world champion, Rafael Mendez. And the other one was Tanquino Mendez, who is a great MMA fighter, also a world champion. I was a brown belt, competed with him at black belt level. 2004, after about 5 BJJ internationals and so on, started teaching. And then I went 2005, I went to Brazil, lived there, Gracie camp, loved capoeira from my African roots.
Wow.
Absolutely. To this day, I'm still training capoeira with Mr. Marcelo Jangola. I traveled to Brazil. And that brings me finally to the present day when I'm more teaching. So I've competed, I boxed, I competed in MMA, won the amateur Fight Starters MMA competition, who was organized by Mark Goddard, the famous referee. Mark, again, apologies for name dropping, great friend of mine, superb guy. So I won his competition. And I just, I like to test myself. I always say to my guys, don't be scared. Death, tax, and loss. It's always going to happen to us. So there's no problem. And then I've reached the stage now where I've done as much as I can. I went to Martinique to do Danme, beautiful African martial arts. I met some fantastic people, David Fatner, and some lovely people there. And, people have got to dig into that, because that is where African martial arts is still held strong. And then finally, to the present day academy, I've been teaching my academy from 2010 to the present day. And I thought, you know what? Oral tradition, pass something back. I've yin and yang. I've taken a lot, been a lot. I was born in Ghana. Let's pass it on. And the catalyst was your podcast.
Wow.
Yours podcast, because I thought, I wonder what's happening in the Ghana scene. Did a bit of Googling, listened to your podcast, and I thought, it's got to be done.
Wow. I think for anyone who's listening, who's just heard you talk about your history in all these sports and arts and your commitment to training and development and coaching and inspiring now the next generation, I think it's very impressive. And in addition to that, you were just in Ghana and you held this seminar. And I have to ask this question right from the get-go. When you saw all these athletes there, and I'm sure you saw some potential, and I'm sure you saw some gaps in their game that you could obviously identify, and we'll talk about that and things to augment on their end in terms of their training methodologies, this, that, and the other. Did the following idea cross your mind of like, hey, why don't I, relocate to Ghana and coach these athletes full time? Did that obviously I'm putting you on the spot. You live in the UK. Sorry, go ahead.
The answer is absolutely no, for two reasons. One, I have a passion of teaching families in the UK. I taught some people at 8 years old. I'm now teaching their children at 12.
Wow. Okay.
I've got a guy who came to me yesterday. I'm teaching 40 years.
Wow.
Also, the key thing is not to tread on people's toes.
Okay.
It's the case of saying, hey, I'm here. There's no agenda. I'm not going to throw money in to buy position. I'm not going to ask for any money. It's just passing on what I've learnt at no hidden agenda. And yes, I will help because I've got a Ghana passport. I've got all the IDs. Got a house in Ghana. But when it comes to relocating, no. I'm enjoying my gym. They give me support, and my focus is on them. Keep your house in order, and then help other people who want your help.
Awesome. We're gonna go back to the training session because I think you got a lot of perspective there, right? In terms of these athletes, and some of these athletes, as you mentioned, for the most part, they competed in the African Games in various sports. So it's cool that they all came to your seminar. You know, as you mentioned, folks from the karate community, the judo community, and those in boxing and MMA as well. Yeah, it's really cool that they all came and attended, and I hope they were open to the learning. Of course, during the session, what strengths and areas for improvement did you observe among the participants that could help elevate their MMA performance?
Striking. Ghana has got a background in striking, so you put that back to the back burner. Spirit, Ghana's got a background. All Africans have got spirit, fighting spirit. It comes with the journey. The SWOT analysis: strength, weakness, opportunities, threats. The weakness is wrestling. Wrestling dictates where the fight goes. And I would love them to work with the Ghana Wrestling Association or wrestling, because if you're a boxer and if you can't stop somebody taking you down, you got problems. If you're a jiu-jitsu guy and you can't take somebody down, you got problems. So the spirit is there, the striking ability is there. The first thing that needs to be addressed is their wrestling ability. That's the number one priority.
How big of an issue is that for most of these athletes? Like how in terms of how, I hate to ask it this way, to frame it this way, but how poor is their wrestling? Or how limited, pardon me, how limited is their wrestling?
Yes. The wrestling is limited in terms of the fact that Ghana has got a very good tradition in traditional wrestling. So there's not a limitation there. It's actually understanding it, how to apply it in an MMA scenario. So they're not limited. You and I can drive, but how can we apply that driving in a Formula One race? You know, so it's not there. There's a gentleman called Mr. Norbert Emefu, who's now in charge of Ghana Wrestling. He's exposed a lot of guys in the African Games to wrestling. Win or lose, it doesn't matter. They've got combat experience. So in terms of that, it's a case of how to apply what they know in traditional wrestling. So in terms of weakness, it's not a weakness in the technique, so it's how to apply the technique.
When you transitioned from striking sports like Taekwondo into grappling, what was your transition like? What did you find, really challenging as you transitioned from years of high performance Taekwondo, which is a very dynamic, combat sport. It's an Olympic sport, and you're competing at the highest level. You're traveling the world to compete with the world's best. And you came with a lot of, I would imagine, incredible transferable skills as an athlete, right? But when you shifted in your driving from high performance Taekwondo to learning jiu-jitsu, what were some of the pain points in that transition?
Great question. Rather than limited taekwondo, because I was doing Muay Thai as well. I fought in Thailand. I actually trained in the Thai temple, which I've got proof of, because one of the students at London University, his father was a Thai fighter. And I also boxed in a place called All Stars in London. And it was so, so humbling. The transition, I had a jiu-jitsu black belt who virtually ate me. No, he was a brown belt then. He just ate me. He just looked bored. And whenever I threw a punch, bang. And the biggest transition was to realize the fact that kicking somebody or punching them, you get one chance to knock them out. You get one chance. If somebody can hug you, you got the problems. So to answer your question, the mind shift was to be teachable and to realize, yes, you've got a 5th dan or 6th dan round your belt. Whoopee, you can't swim. You cannot swim. You fall in the water, the jiu-jitsu guys are sharks. They'll eat you. And so it was just a humbling experience. Mind shift was be humble, again, start from scratch.
Can we go back to the early 90s, 1993, as you mentioned earlier on in the interview, when you were exposed to the UFC and mixed martial arts, I should say, in the UK? What was the energy like back then in the UK when the world was introduced to this concept of ultimate fighting?
It was amazing, because the fact that everybody picked up this tape from a shop, Woolworths, plugged it in, and they thought, it's WWE wrestling, nothing special. Then when we saw Thai fighters we knew, exposed to people we knew in Europe, getting absolutely strangled and choked and so on, it's like you seeing a friend of yours getting choked, then you know it's not fake.
Wow.
And then in Britain, people in Britain are very teachable, and a few guys went to America, trained in Torrance. They brought back blue belts, and at that time they asked Roger's dad, they met him in Japan, come to the UK. But there was a few Brazilians there in the UK, 2 or 3, Chen and guy called Ireland, but they kept low profile. So in terms of the UK, hopefully I haven't digressed from your question, but in terms of the UK, it was a case of, wow, let's do it. Because UK wasn't and still isn't. It wasn't a commercial gym approach. So it wasn't a case of, my God, if I expose my students to this, I'm going to lose revenue. It's a case of, I want to learn. And we were so lucky that we had a direct lineage who was there in 93. And then Roger Gracie came down with his father, Braulio Estima, superb guys who came to the UK, brown belts, purple belts. And the British culture just embraced it.
When you say the British are very coachable, can you elaborate on that, on that trait?
Yes. The British are coachable. This is my personal opinion, is a lot of British people are very non-commercial in terms of their martial art approach. So it's not a case of I'm selling pizzas. Oh my gosh, the person next door is selling tortillas. I've got to make sure my students don't see the tortilla. It's a case of, okay, so I'm doing striking arts. I'm getting my ass whipped. If I want to be a good teacher, I need to learn this, because you're teaching kids, parents, self-defense. And if somebody grabs them and throws them to the ground, they cannot defend themselves. So the teachable thing and the non-commercial thing was the main buzz in the UK. Just learn. And few of us used to get together, train in people's garages. I had a double garage. They had a famous team called Carson Gracie. They used to train in a boiler room, and so on. And then from then on, it built on. Few people opened up their academies, and Roger opened his academy in 2004. And his father and Steve asked me to do the administration for his gym. And so I got very on well with the guy. I don't put him on a pedestal. He's a good friend. And I did my best because I come from a sort of finance background, accounting.
Nice.
So I put the systems in place, but the number one priority was learn.
Very, very, very cool to hear that. I think it's something that is valuable across the board, being willing to learn and open to learn. In terms of the participants at the seminar there, were they open to learn generally? Was there some hesitation? Were they?
Oh, of course, there's always hesitation. I mean, you've got a 5'3" guy, 65 years old. What does he know? And
a lot. I mean, it's if you're there, you're coaching. If they Googled you up, if they looked at your resume, as I mentioned, I mean, the mere fact. Sorry, I don't mean to jump in there, but I think the fact that you're an Olympian, you competed there. You've done just about every other sport. It's in combat sport. You've built that profile. You've been teaching. I'm sure they realize, hey, here's someone who's going to bring value to us, and I hope they jumped on the opportunity. Sorry, please continue.
I mean, they did. Yeah, that's absolutely. Yeah, and they did. But the thing is, I always have the thing in the back of my mind of don't tell me, show me. So what I did is I wrestled with a few of them. I boxed with a few of them. I did yada, so it's a case of the fact that, yes, I understand what he's saying, because if it doesn't work, I could do any technique. I could do flying back somersaults, land on my nose, But if I say to somebody, right, you're going to hold me and I'm going to get out. If I get out, they're a lot more receptive. Then I get their biggest, strongest high box. I say, right, let's go on the floor, count 20 seconds, and he'll be tapping in 20 seconds. Not for the ego. It's a case of don't tell me, show me. And top coaches don't have to be good practitioners. So long as you can impart the information and have some sort of background so that you can understand what they're coming for, and they're big guys, as you saw, they're big guys, and human nature. Somebody walks into your house and they say, look, I can show you how to run a Zoom meeting. You're going to say to them, don't tell me, show me. I just love the way that within a short time, they came down. 40 of them came, different parts of Ghana. And, I always maintain a level of fitness. So I can, again, not being arrogant, I can do 10 rounds, 5 minutes, no problem.
Wow.
Because there's no point me telling that to all my students if I can't at least do it. Not at their intensity, but do it. So that's how it is.
And you're still active in coaching and training as a 65-year-old man, is that correct?
Every single day, my passion. I mean, every single day, Monday, but now my son takes away some of the strength and conditioning. But I get up in the morning, 5:30, and I'm on it. And one of my guys said to me this morning, he said, if you retired, you disintegrate, you'd be bored. And I totally agree. Every single day. Tonight, I've got about 40 people on the mat. Most of them are gold medalist champions, but they're all professionals. They're not fighters. They're lawyers, accountants, IT consultants. So that's why I was confident that I could go to Ghana and show them what can happen, because I'm producing the results with 95 people. And my guys have had 45 amateur MMA fights. They've lost 3.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So, and I just want to share. That's all.
In terms of the training seminar and like the pure no-gi grappling component aspect, what was something that you imparted on them that fundamentally they need to just know naturally? What's that one thing you hammered?
Don't use power.
Okay.
Don't use power, because you push somebody and they redirect you, you're on your face. That's the don't use power. And so you said a number one thing. So I would say don't use power. If there was a number two, be deceptive.
Interesting.
Yeah.
In the exchange, in the training seminar, was there something you learned from these athletes and competitors? Was there something that they, if it's not on the mats, maybe off the mats, was there something that you got out of it beyond the knowledge sharing, of course, which is incredible and valuable? Was there something that they shared with you?
Yes. One thing that came across is they want the opportunity to perform. The opportunity to perform. When I competed, I had sponsors, plane journeys, tracksuits, and so on. One of the things, they came on their motorbikes, 1.5 hour journeys.
Wow.
And it's like anything in life. You give somebody an opportunity in Africa, they will value it. Sometimes when we're in a comfortable environment, if I break my iPhone, I go and buy a new one. So one thing I learned from them is you could see that they wanted the opportunity.
Now, you were there in Ghana, obviously putting on this training seminar, and I'm sure you've been researching the martial arts scene and the combat sports scene in Ghana.
Yeah.
From your perspective and vantage point, what do you think could be hindering the development of MMA and jiu-jitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu in Ghana, from what you've seen?
Okay, I would say three things, possibly four things. One is quality coaches. Number one, because I put that ahead of good administration. If the administration is good and you haven't got the vehicles for that administration, it's not the priority. Number one is quality coaches. Number two is good administration. And number three is exposure to events. Because anything in life, you have to make mistakes. I'm a rugby fanatic. I love my rugby. And Argentina were getting their ass whipped from years to years. Yesterday, they've beaten South Africa. They've beaten New Zealand. They've beaten Australia.
Argentina
have beaten South Africa last week. They've beaten New Zealand and they've beaten Australia. And I remember the times when it was 100-0, 24-0, and everybody in that Argentinian team is Argentinian. So they don't import South Africans with Argentinian passports or whatever, because of good administration, quality coaches, and the exposure. They got exposed to the top teams. Now they're beating them. Coming back to Ghana, quality coaches, organizing courses, because people have to travel. You say, right, you come at 5 o'clock in the morning, we finish at 7 o'clock at night. At least you're only there for one day. You learn 6 things and you learn it rote. Just like I was trying to teach. Just take away 5 or 6 points. Then after you've got the coaches doing that, they can disseminate those 5 points. Then you come back again, probably in a couple of months' time, and give them. Example, 5 points. What's the most important thing? Number one, stop being taken down. The priority, I would say, is learn how to stop being taken down. 2, if somebody takes you down, how to maneuver yourself out that position. So there's no point learning all the sexy submissions and things like that until you've got that. Then you need somebody or some people who can do the administration. say, guys, this is. I mean, with my thing, it didn't get off the ground with about just as I was leaving UK, because I hadn't heard from anybody. And I said, no problem. I'm just going to Labadi Beach. I'm going to have some fun. Oh, wait. So, so all of a sudden, I was leaving at, I don't know, 10 o'clock at 7 o'clock in the morning. They jacked up the seminar at 8 o'clock in Ghana. Okay. All because of administration, not because people don't want to come, because the information hadn't been disseminated. And the final point was the exposure. I went to the African Games, and I loved the way that they exposed a lot of competitors. Win or lose, didn't matter. Ghana had a full team in wrestling, MMA, just let them get exposed, let them get beaten. They've got a track record. So those are the 3 points: coaching, administration, exposure.
Those are some excellent points. I want to go to number 2, administration, because it's a fascinating topic that you bring up, and one I believe doesn't get enough. It doesn't get articulated enough, maybe, or communicated enough. And maybe this is an issue across the board, not just in Ghana, but in martial arts gyms, dojos, centers across the world. The importance of strong, organized administration and the role. Elaborate on what administration looks like in the UK, particularly if you don't mind, in your gym or in the UK generally. What is administration,
okay.
Gym administration, and so on?
Right. Administration, 3 points: timely information. Number 1, I'm not too keen on WhatsApp groups, because the fact that you're with your family and you get a ping at 4 o'clock in the morning, Whereas with Facebook, a closed Facebook group allows you to go to your PO box, pick up the information and look at it. So it gives you the opportunity to go in. So my communication, yes, we have a WhatsApp group, but I make sure people only communicate between, let's say, 8 o'clock in the morning till 6 o'clock. Why 8 o'clock? Because if somebody goes to work at 9, they can't look at their WhatsApp information. So between 8 and 9, they can get up or they're on the train. And then if they finish at 5 o'clock, they've got 1 hour between that when they see their families, when they switch off the WhatsApp, whatever, or before they come training. So I'm a good believer in a closed group, what do you call his name? Facebook, but also a software system where people can book in so that you can plan. I've used this software for about 15 years. I know who's turning up. I see their names. I say, okay, so I've got X, Y, and Z. This is their weaknesses. So it's communication and also delegation. That's something I found very hard because I probably set my standard too high, but now so nobody teaches for me unless they've trained me about 9 or 10 years.
Wow.
Okay. So I know what they're about.
Right.
I've got team leaders. Like when I have a jiu-jitsu class, I've got 60 children, 60 in the class. I've got 7 parents who are helping me. I call them team leaders. They do jiu-jitsu themselves. They've got children training. So I can delegate the Johnny, keep your hands up, elbows in, things like that. And the other thing about good administration, the final point is ego. Yep. The final point is ego is, let's say for a national body, I don't like this region. I'm not going to let them know.
Right.
I'm not going to let them compete. I want the whole national squad to come from region X. So I would say in a short thing, that's what I would say would be the emphasis.
Fascinating stuff, and I'm sure if anyone's listening to this, wherever you are in Africa or the world, a lot of this will certainly resonate with them let's just say it sounds very familiar to stories that I've heard elsewhere in terms of just, how a lack of administration really kind of hinders some development of the sport and some of the organization. For the 40 athletes who showed up at the seminar, could you tell which ones were more professional as athletes? And by professional, I mean were very receptive, engaged, open. They knew they had this opportunity to train and they fully maximized on it. And which ones are wanting to take it to the next level, particularly if you don't mind for those that are doing MMA or those who competed?
I would say a lot. So I don't want to use the word surprisingly, but I was really appreciative that a lot of them wanted to take it to the level, because the fact that after coaching for about 50 years, you can tell from somebody's body language if they do that. And a couple of them just came to sit down and said, "Oh yeah, I know this." I said, "No. Only people to do the seminar, you have to get on the mat."
Nice.
You can't sit there and talk and say, "Yeah, I could do this and that." You get on the mat. You can't film unless you're on the mat. So on the mat, you can film, embrace yourself, get in the swimming pool, feel the cold water, feel the hot water. If you don't want to do that, then I know you're not engaged. So it's an easy criteria. And I would say 95% of them were lapping it up. They were there, so to speak.
As a coach, how do you know when someone has it in them to take it to the full potential? How do you know when someone is all in, not just 100%, but 101%, and wants to fully utilize their gifts and their talents and be coachable? What indicators? You mentioned body language, but beyond that, I mean, you've been coaching for 50 years plus now.
I'm 65. I started coaching at 13 when a guy didn't turn up at school, and the PE teacher said, "Look, can you teach the class?"
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. So it's been passion, and the answer is you don't, because people will surprise you. Because some people will have a lovely shield. "Oh, I want to be the best. I want to do this. I want to do that." And as soon as they've got what they want, you don't see them again for dust. So what it is, it's like a train. If the guy is going up the hill fast, you know what? They're trying to get that at all costs. You need. I'm looking for somebody who go up the mountain slowly, stop at every village, go in, absorb, take it in, not to be in a hurry. And that's why you get all these gym jumpers. They jump from X, Y to Z. They have, like, let's say if Academy X comes in their area, because it's got a famous name, they'll jump there, they'll jump there, they'll jump there. You see? So in the case of, I've never been successful in 50 years. You can't tell. You cannot tell. It's people will select themselves by what they do. Constantly coming to events, and all of a sudden, you say like if I was running a competition, I would say, okay, I'm going to choose the Ghanaian team. We're going to have 10 events. 10 events. You're going to have one north, east, south, west. And wherever somebody places, you get 5 points for first place, 3 points for second, and so on. After 10 events, the cumulative guys are the ones who you're going to select, so that it's a case of the person wanting to travel all over the place, accumulate the points, and because I could be lucky, I could fight somebody and beat them. It doesn't mean I'm the best in the country, because somebody else in the north of the country can't afford to come down. So you take that position. And the reason I say that is that's what happened in the Great Britain Taekwondo for Seoul Olympics. It was a series of 6 events, round the country. I don't care how much you love me or how many BMWs you're going to buy me. You get the points. And horrible thing to say, but because I didn't want to leave it to the judges, I knocked everybody out.
Wow.
Yeah, I didn't want to leave it to politics. I didn't want to, and my wife used to tell me off, you don't want to talk to anybody, you know, and I was the most miserable person there. Bearing in mind, Taekwondo was a military combat art then. Nowadays, I rest my case. So my decision was, okay, you know what? Let's just knock everybody out. Keeps life simple. And, you know, that's what I did. So whether the coaches like me or not, I was the number one flyweight in the country. And that's what I would like to see at a prestigious event. Let's say if MMA gets to the Olympics, MMA gets something like that, go to the villages, have competitions, see who comes out that way.
Fascinating stuff. I could ask so much about what you just said there in terms of follow-ups and make this conversation even longer, because it's there's a lot to unpack. I wonder, for people who are listening, particularly those who are in Africa, athletes in particular, if there was any advice, like let's say 3 key pieces of advice you could share with them, especially for those who are limited in the resources, like, you know, who are unable to travel to the big city but still have the fire in terms of the motivation to train. They keep themselves strong. They start with where they are. You know, they have a limitation of knowledge, but are still trying to expand their knowledge base. They're looking at YouTube videos. They're reading magazines, books, this, that, and the other. What advice would you have, particularly for those that are looking to go beyond recreational practitioner and take it to the next? Because there is a difference, right? And I mean, you dealt with those who I would imagine are definitely not recreationalists because they've competed at the African Games in MMA, which is incredible that they had MMA at the African Games, because it's a big step forward for mixed martial arts globally, not just in Africa. And maybe we can get into that later. But thoughts, what 3 key pieces of advice would you give to these athletes who, obviously, maybe not obviously, their experiences vary, but let me give you a scenario. They're limited on resources, financial and knowledge and this, that, and the other. But they have the desire and the passion. And I see a lot of these athletes on social media. I follow them. They're incredible athletes. Some of them compete at the highest level. They do well. Some try their best and they represent. And that's what's important. And, you know, it's a combat sport. You win, you lose, you learn ultimately, hopefully. But speaking of learning, what's your top 3 pieces of advice?
Okay. The key point, so I don't deviate from the question, is to see what works. See what works. Overdose on UFC fights. And what will happen is certain things will start coming out. Certain things will start coming out. Like I say to the guys, look, just go to, I would say, just like you're training for an exam, do the past papers. Don't do last year's past paper. Do the past papers for the last 15 years. See what works. And then you see John Jones, Cormier, Henderson, you see, oh my gosh, why are a lot of wrestlers doing really well? Okay, so instantly you see what's happening. Then you look at the wrestlers and you think, hang on, out of the freestyle and the Greco-Roman wrestlers, why are the Greco guys doing well? An American kid or Canadian kid learns wrestling and freestyle, they're shooting to their legs. There's no threat of being kneed or punching. It's going to be very hard to unlearn that. Greco-Roman is all upper body. You're clinching. You can't touch the legs. So immediately you take away the danger element of being kneed or whatever as you shoot. So number 1 is see what works. and then find some friends. Some friends. Hey, Johnny, put your hands around my waist, throw me to the sand. Just do that. Just do that. Just do that. Because a lot of it, I don't know what that word means, but I'll use the word muscle memory. Muscle memory. So, number one, see what works. Muscle memory. Get your friend to throw a punch to your face. You realize that if you start doing this and that like a boxer, you're going to get kneed in the face. So see what works. So that hopefully that answers your question, because I can't just say see what works and then get in a bus and go and train in a wrestling club.
Right.
See what works. Create an environment with 2 or 3 people. They don't have to be like-minded, but big, strong things like that. Work on it. Repetitive. Do your research. Again, I use that word. I get bored. SWOT. Look at the strengths of what works. Look at the weakness. If somebody shoots on their legs and they keep getting kneed in the face, then you know there's something wrong. The opportunity. Why does people like Habib and all these they throw somebody up against the wall, then they drag them around? Yeah. And then you've got the threat. Why do people get submitted? Because they're sticking their hands out, they're sticking their necks out. So you do a SWOT analysis and you do that. And as the time goes on, hopefully some opportunity will come. A regional thing might happen. So just focusing on your question, see what works, and then train that for your sport.
Very interesting. Now, obviously Ghana has a very strong boxing heritage and tradition. Yeah. I think we all know that. And now that there is an introduction of mixed martial arts and grappling disciplines like Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu in particular, do you think there's potential for the sport of MMA in particular to flourish and grow in Ghana?
Absolutely. In Africa, absolutely. Because you've got the hard work ethics. Africans take a punch every day, physically, mentally, emotionally. Absolutely. It's just giving them the tools, giving them the knife, fork, and spoon to eat. Yeah, no, absolutely no problem at all. I don't, as opposed to have somebody who's very comfortable in their environment who want to do recreational. That's beautiful. Well done. But you name it, any country in Africa, the potential's there. And coming back to your previous question, like that chap, I think in Egypt, who won the Olympic javelin, he did it from YouTube. Yeah, he learned how to throw a javelin from YouTube.
I think you're talking about the Pakistani.
Yeah, Pakistani. But there's also an Egyptian guy as well. The Pakistani, yeah. But there's also another Egyptian, which was years down the line. I think he won a medal. He learned it from YouTube as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah. So MMA, no problem. Exposure. Every country is not only Ghana. It's the whole, and that's where your website podcast comes in useful, because hopefully people think I can do this. Because I'm just a kid from Africa, from Ghana. I was born there, and I got the opportunities. That's all. I'm not the best, but I took the opportunities, and the African spirit got me through. I'm not scared. You put somebody in front of me in a combat situation, no problem. I don't have a problem at all. Africans have got that inbuilt mechanism, no problems.
Now, Ebe, in terms of one of the points you mentioned earlier on was the need for strong coaching, right? In anywhere you go, you need to have strong coaches, good coaches.
Yeah.
How would we, in terms of supporting and facilitating that, what do you think someone needs to do to kind of augment their coaching? Let's say they're in Ghana right now, and they want to. Their objective is not so much competition per se, because maybe they're maybe they're in their early to mid 30s. They've competed in other sports, but they're realizing that, hey, you know what? there's a whole infrastructure here that's missing that should be focused on developing younger athletes in sport ABC. If it's jiu-jitsu, if it's boxing, well, maybe not boxing because they have enough boxing there, but if it's wrestling, fill in the blank. But how would they go about it? What do you think they need to do, especially in this day and age where, there's access to, applications like Zoom where you can communicate with people all over the world. There's no shortage of content online. Curriculums are available online. Affiliations you can make within, correct me if I'm wrong, the jiu-jitsu community, Brazilian jiu-jitsu community has a strong system for affiliations and whatnot. And each affiliation has a very good model. I'm generalizing here. I'm not familiar with all the models. I'm familiar with your brand. Obviously, I think it's the biggest brand in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu globally.
Yeah.
So question is, I'm a coach. I want to learn more coaching methodologies. I want to augment my game.
Yeah.
How do I go about doing it without having to leave the country? Because once people,
exactly as you said, Zoom. The only time I knew of Zoom was during the pandemic. It's come a thing. All you need, if you look at my gym here, whatever, it's just the case of somebody's conducted class 6,000 miles away. Yeah. And you learn there. So what you do is you start there. This is what you stand there. You say, right, this is what I want you to do. Down, move, there, down, and you keep doing that. Then what happens is somebody attacks you, push away, push away. Now, obviously, it's superficial, but it gets in the right place. Then it's a case of show me how do against somebody else. So you use the modern media and you train like that. But you don't get recognized as a coach until you're doing it face to face under testing situations, because not about how wonderful you can do a spinning arm bar or whatever. It's how you can impart that knowledge. Okay. And also how to impart that knowledge correctly, because it's all about margins. So it's a case of having, like, let's say, a probationary thing. Then you have a probationary level. Then you have an assessed level. Then you have a level 1 of coaching. Somebody you've actually seen face to face. They've done what they've been asked to do. Then you ask them as many awkward questions as possible. Ask them as many awkward scenarios as possible. Let them make their mistakes there. And you say, okay, maybe try this way. Okay? Because whatever I say or you say is not only correct, try this way. Then once they've done that, they become level 1 coaches. The reason I say that, again, sorry if it sounds like me on the thing, I've done level 2, boxing, wrestling, weightlifting, jiu-jitsu, judo. I'm just looking at my things around the board here. Why? Because I want to learn. I want to learn. And I want to do something safely. Because I say to somebody, if you're teaching the Ethiopian language or the Ghanaian language, okay, what you want to do is you want to get an Ethiopian or Ghanaian guy to listen to how you say the words. If they laugh, then you haven't been taught properly. If they laugh, then you haven't been taught properly. So you've got to make sure that the person who's teaching you is credible, as opposed, and also the agenda. That's the sad thing about martial arts is agendas. I never, ever charge people for my tuition, but that stops people taking, for one word, we're extracting the urine out of me, taking the piss, as we call it in the UK, because I'm not going to impart any money to an organized whatever. I came to the African Games. I paid for myself. I was there for 4 days. I've been to Ghana 4 times in the last 9 months.
Wow.
Okay. Exactly. 4 times in the last 9 months. And it's a case of setting the system slowly, health and safety, correct people, build at a time, and then say, right, I come back again. So going back a thing is Zoom would be the number one nowadays. Zoom is number one. You could conduct something from here. You could conduct something from your place. And then at least when you get there, you got that critical time when you can get them right. Now you know what to do. Apply it against Joe Bloggs. And I give you random people. Then I ask you awkward questions. I'll give you one awkward question. Let's say if you're doing MMA, and somebody's hitting you on the floor, people in the crowd shout, stand up, stand up, stand up. You don't stand up. Yeah, you don't stand up. Why? You're expending energy. Can you see? You're expending energy, and B, you're from the fetal position. You're giving them a bigger surface area to hurt you even more. So only somebody who's been in the MMA cage and had throw can actually say that. Joe Bloggs will say, stand up. Does that make sense? Long distance, no problem, but have A, B, C, D on the fourth time. The person is qualified as a level 1 coach with supervision. Then years down the line, level 2, they can run their club.
Really, really interesting information there, and I hope people absorb that. I think there's a real need for standardized, and I mean there are standards in coaching, but I think for emerging communities, the earlier they have those emerging communities, like let's put Ghana in there as far as mixed martial arts and other jurisdictions and countries and regions in Africa. I'm sure those standards are key. And without getting into the sports organization end of things, because there's more than one international body involved in amateur MMA, and I think both are doing, let's just say, a really good job in terms of trying to bring MMA, amateur MMA to the forefront, and they put in a lot of work and a lot of effort. What were your thoughts on the African Games? I believe you mentioned to me that you watched some of the wrestling competition. Can you tell us your overall thoughts? Attending the event.
Yeah, overall thoughts, absolutely amazing. Because what happened? I went to Ghana to do some business for my mum, things like that. African Games. So I thought, you know what? 4 weeks time, I'm going to come back again. So I went back for the African Games. And again, the administration could have been better in terms of, even to the day a week before I was flying. Okay, no. A week before I was flying, I didn't even know when the wrestling was going to be. And I thought I had a 5-day window. If the wrestling was on a Sunday, I'm flying back on a Saturday. That's why I couldn't see the MMA, because the program was only released about 2 weeks after I had to buy an air ticket.
Wow.
Exactly. So I could only see the wrestling. I saw a bit of judo. I had to come back. So administration is the thing. One thing I saw was the pride, the Ghanaian pride. They had that. But then the usual undertones of we're not getting the right equipment we want. Okay. But that's not for me to even go any further on that. But it's just the enthusiasm was there. The passion of being able to compete in an international environment. Because, I mean, you had people like Daniel Igali, who is the Olympic champion, was there. People there. You saw people like that. And hopefully, even if 50% of people there say, you know what, I want more of this. That's what I did. My first international event was in Ecuador, 1982. Never been out the UK. And I went to South America, and I was fighting 112 countries. So the African Games should be a catalyst. I hope it is.
Yeah, it certainly made a major impact, and particularly for MMA, it was one big giant leap forward for the sport. Now, do you plan on hosting more seminars or training sessions in Ghana? And if so, what are your goals for these future initiatives?
Okay. The answer is I just wait for people to ask me because I'm not going to force myself on people. I've got things to do in Ghana with my mother, XYZ. What I do is like I'll go onto their website. I'll give you an example. There's supposed to be a competition, MMA competition in November. I've asked people. I haven't heard anything about it. I don't think it's been done, so to speak. Because when I was there, they said, "Oh yeah, there's a big MMA competition happening in November." I haven't seen it like that, so I can't plan in terms of air tickets. If there was no competition, I always come as a spectator, and I'll say to people, "I'm here. You know, if you want me to do something, I'll do it." And the same thing with wrestling. I want to see traditional African wrestling. So if I'm there, I'll just let people know. And they said to me, "Let me know if you're there." So I'm in the waiting mode. Yeah, I'm not gonna because I've got more than enough going on in the UK. 250 people in my academy.
Wow.
I love what I'm doing. I'm there to help. I keep using this word, oral tradition. You got to give something back into the martial art. I've been there, seeing it. I've got the T-shirt, and I'm still learning. I'm doing this thing in Martinique, done, mate. Love it to a passion. I'm a beginner, so I'm learning there. So in terms of agendas and so on, if Jeff wants to get in contact, if Norbert wants to get in contact or whatever, I'm up for it. Coaching. I mean, Mr. Norbert from wrestling has said, "Look, let me know how they do wrestling in UK. I don't have a problem with that." I asked the British Wrestling permission. Can I show him this and that? They say no problem.
Wow.
And then the MMA, I said to them, and you probably saw on the website, when I got to Ghana, I sent a text to Mark Goddard, MMA top. I mean, Mark Goddard last week, you saw him refereeing. Who is he refereeing? Israel Adesanya or Dukas Duplessis, whatever. He was the referee. I sent a text to Mark. "Mark, would you come to Ghana? No problem. Let me know."
Wow.
Then they would have a full understanding of the rules because you've got the best UFC guy rules. Roger Gracie, the best BJJ guy. He's forgotten more than I'll ever know. Yeah. I was sending a text to him yesterday because his birthday is the same day as my wedding anniversary. So I say, "Thank you very much for reminding me." He would come. And I've got a guy called Jean-Francois Gore, 2-time Olympian wrestler, who is the head of Dolomio Sports, or the sports mats.
Oh, wow.
No agenda. He's a 2-time Olympian, Greco-Roman wrestler. Can you imagine him going to Africa to teach them how to clinch and whatever?
Sorry, I just want to confirm. Are you saying that these notable individuals would be willing to they would be open to go?
Absolutely, 100%, absolutely. Why? Because I spoke to them when I was there, and I've got texts up, and they said, "Yeah, I'm up for it." I mean, the poor guy from Greco-Roman, I forgot to say about the African Games, but I don't put people on pedestals. These people are friends of mine. I have a passion, and I sent a text to Mark. He said, "Yeah." I mean, Mark is so busy. I mean, you look at the stuff he does on thing, but he'll be up for it. Roger Grace will be up for it. There's no agenda. Can you imagine how their brains would explode? Okay, I mean, Roger's for MMA as well. Then you've got a guy who's been a Greco-Roman wrestler twice, who knows all the top UFC heavyweights because he deals with all the wrestling in the UK, in the USA, Canada, the Dolomio mats, and he was also the head of grappling at Fila. Good friend of mine. Can you imagine what input they would have? I would just stand back and say, "Right, these are the guys. Get them involved."
it would be significant. It would be game changing for the scene, especially if if the administration lines up, and really sees the value in it, you know what I mean? And that's really fascinating. Actually, if can you tell us, for those who may not know, who is Roger Gracie and his impact in the sport? And sorry, and like really build up his grappling style. What is it, or his
Okay.
approach to jujitsu? Because he's a fairly large individual.
Yes, Roger Gracie in 5 lines. One of the nicest guys you'll meet. Roger Gracie's 10 times world champion, has not been submitted since he was a blue belt. Nobody submitted him since he was a blue belt. His jiu-jitsu is very, very simple. He won the One Championships MMA heavyweight. Wasn't keen on doing MMA, but he's got the surname Gracie.
Right.
Been there, done it in t-shirt. I don't think anybody can say that there is somebody better in the world than Roger Gracie, apart from Hickson. So the top two would be Hickson, Gracie, but currently Roger Gracie. Now, Roger has retired now, but, there was a doubt about whether he'd be good enough when he held Buchecha to a draw. There's the top jiu-jitsu guy at that time who was breaking Roger's record. He submitted the guy. He submitted the guy in front of the whole world. So to answer, Roger Gracie is in the top 3 ever in the world in jiu-jitsu. The top 3 ever in the world. Who else was it? Just Roger himself, yeah? And all they do is just Google Roger Gracie.
Right, absolutely. Follow up in regards to Roger. It's you mentioned, I believe it's simple. You said simple jujitsu,
100%.
right?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on how simple his approach is, but yet it's so sophisticated at the same time? Like, it's simply sophisticated, right? Because and speak to his go-to finish, for example. What?
Yeah. Okay. So everybody says, "Oh, yeah." Roger's good because he's 6'2" and whatever. Nah. You roll with Roger. You and I can beat Roger in a 100-meter race. Easy. You and I can beat Roger in a weightlifting competition. Easy. His strength is not comparable to his thing. His mind. One thing I noticed about Roger in 2003, when I was at his academy, he was always playing chess. Okay. His mind is so ahead of the game. So simple, sweep you, mount you, choke you. If he doesn't choke you, he arm bars you. That's it. Now, that is not going to endear people who want to teach sexy jiu-jitsu, get more people in, flying arm bars, things like that. So I always say to people, once you look at YouTube, look at the techniques that work. Roger submitted, I think, 6 or 7 people with the same technique at one World Championships. Yeah, I'll send you the link afterwards. And all he does is he passes your guard, sits on you, chokes you. If he doesn't choke you, he arm bars you. But it's 99.9% choke you, and there's no power. I've had a mini spar with Roger, and I just couldn't breathe. I just wanted it to be over, and I lasted 45 seconds, a minute. I just couldn't breathe. And his record speaks for himself. He's so laid back, so horizontal, but he is so beautiful in his technique. The same with Hickson. If you look at Hickson Gracie, I've been to a couple of Hickson's seminars. I'm getting more involved with his organization. He does this thing called invisible jiu-jitsu. And what the invisible jiu-jitsu is things you don't see. The only thing I can articulate is when somebody sits on you and you throw them off you, you get 70% success. Hickson does something with his neck, you get 99% success. Yep. And I teach that to my guys, and their mouths are open. So that would be I could passionately talk about them all day, but that's summarizing. Simplicity with Roger, efficiency for Hickson, Jiu-Jitsu. Welcome to Jiu-Jitsu.
Ebe, thank you very much for this interview. I have one last question for you, and it's can you tell us what's the best advice you've ever been given in all of your martial arts career? What's the best advice you've been given? And tell us, where can people find you on social media or your gym and reach out to you if they have any questions in regards to training, jiu-jitsu, or any question at all if someone wants to interview you, etc.?
Okay. The best advice is control your fear. Control your fear. Anybody who says they're not scared is lying. Yeah, I've competed 300 plus times. Every single one I was scared. Okay, you have to control your fear. So that's the best advice, and the best advice that was given to me is control your fear. And the best advice I would give to people is bend your ego and put yourself in an uncompromising situation. Learn. Don't be scared to be punched. Don't be scared to be submitted. And where you can find me, I don't advertise. I don't have, like, my Facebook page is only people who know me for 20 years. I can do silly things. I don't have Instagram. I don't have yada yada. My website is www.m1j14.com, and I just keep it to myself. Yes, you can Google me, things like that, because sometimes once you start enhancing yourself, the ego kicks in. And one thing I say if you look at my jiu-jitsu website, you hardly ever see me in a picture with my students awarding them belts. Why? I'm the one taking the photograph. I'm not standing there saying, look, this is me, that sort of thing. Yes, if you look on things like that, you see the students and all the other students point to them, things like that. I take the photographs because martial arts should not be about the instructor. Yep, you're in the background. Okay, it's a case of your results will show if you're good. If you're not good, no matter how much medium, whatever you've got, enjoy the journey.
Well, I've certainly enjoyed this conversation, my friend. Thank you very much for doing this. Thank you very much for reaching out, and also thank you very much for going to Ghana, obviously, and sharing your knowledge, the oral tradition, of course. And I think it's great to hear and to see that grappling MMA is being built up in Ghana. And thank you very much for your time again.
I would like to say one last thing is thank you. But I think one of the questions you asked, I think you should do is let people know more about what you're at. I think that's something you should do, my friend. Because it's something you should do. And that's what I've actually sent links to my friends. I've sent links to John Francois and all these guys. And they've actually now liking the page, because no matter how good the stuff you're doing, it'd be nice for more people to be exposed to it, because you've got a niche area you're focused on. And anything I can do to help, you let me know, sir.
I really appreciate that. Thank you very much for that advice. And it's hard to do, but I'm trying to do it. And but you're absolutely right. I need to do more promotion of it, and it's coming nice and slowly. It's coming, But I do appreciate that encouragement and that advice. Thank you very much, Ebe. Have a wonderful day.
And you too, sir. Thanks for having me. Take care. Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you for joining us on the Combat Sports in Africa podcast. We hope you enjoyed this interview conducted by Garmami with Ebe Ghansah. Until next time, stay passionate about combat sports in Africa.